Take a deep breath in and slowly let it out. As you breathe, notice the gentle rise and fall of your chest, the way your belly expands and softens with each inhale and exhale. Let your breath guide you, steady and calm, like waves on a quiet shore. Now, close your eyes and imagine yourself standing at the edge of a lush, green forest. The air is fresh, carrying the scent of damp earth and wild flowers. Soft rays of sunlight filter through the leaves, painting golden patterns on the ground. With each step, you walk deeper into the forest, feeling the coolness of the earth beneath your feet. The ground is soft, covered in moss and fallen leaves, each step bringing a sense of grounding, of connection. A gentle breeze moves through the trees, whispering secrets only the wind can understand. You feel its touch on your skin, cool and refreshing, like the soft caress of the morning air. The forest hums with life. Birds sing softly in the distance, their melodies blending with the rustling of leaves. A distant stream murmurs, its sound weaving through the silence, inviting you to slow down, to simply be. You take another deep breath, letting the tranquility of the forest fill you. With each inhale, peace enters your body. With each exhale, tension melts away. You are safe here. You are at home in this moment. The forest embraces you, steady and eternal, reminding you that you too are part of something vast and beautiful. Stay here as long as you need. Let the rhythm of the forest, the rhythm of your breath, guide you into deep, gentle peace. Sparkle. The forest was quiet, wrapped in a soft hush that only the night could bring. The trees, ancient and wise, stood tall, with their branches reaching toward the stars, their leaves whispering gentle secrets to the wind. The air was thick, with the scent of moss and earth, cool and soothing like a lullaby hummed by the world itself. Somewhere deep within this vast woodland, where the mist curled low over the ground and the sky peeked through gaps in the towering canopy, the fireflies stirred. They awoke one by one, tiny specks of golden light flickering to life in the darkness. Their soft glow danced like stars fallen from the sky, weaving slow, delicate trails through the air. They had always been the keepers of the night, carrying with them the memories of the world, the dreams of sleeping creatures, the forgotten stories whispered into the wind. But there was one firefly who did not glow. She was small, even among the others, her wings lighter than a feather, her presence so delicate that she seemed almost invisible among the trees, while the others shimmered and floated in the cool night air, painting the darkness with their soft golden glow. She remained dim, her light a faint flicker that barely touched the world around her. She had tried to glow, tried to shine as the others did. But no matter how much she wished, her light remained weak. The other fireflies told her stories of the great glowing clouds they would create together, of the way their light would guide lost travelers, of how their dance in the air was a gift to the forest. but she could not join them. And so, one night, as the world lay wrapped in the quiet hum of sleep, she set out on her own, flying deeper into the woods than she had ever dared before. The fireflies never ventured beyond the meadows, for they believed their glow belonged to the open spaces where the sky could see them. But she had heard whispers of a place deep in the heart of the forest where the glow of the world was born, a place where the trees held light in their roots, where the air shimmered with a golden haze, where the fire within every living thing could be rekindled. She did not know if the stories were true, but she had to try. She fluttered between towering trunks, past vines that curled like sleeping creatures, past mushrooms that glowed faintly with an eerie blue shimmer. The deeper she went, the quieter the world became, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath, watching her journey with silent, knowing eyes. The path was long, and the air thickened with mist, making the world feel endless, like time had slowed to a dream. But she did not stop. Even as the night stretched on, even as her wings grew heavy, she flew. And then, through the mist, she saw it, a clearing, hidden beneath the embrace of ancient trees, where the ground glowed with a soft pulsing light. Tiny rivers of golden liquid wove through the earth, flowing like veins beneath the surface, casting a warm, gentle glow on the surrounding trees. Their roots stretched deep into the light, drinking it in, carrying it upward through their great trunks, until their branches shimmered faintly against the night sky. It was as if the stars had fallen to the earth, their glow now resting within the heart of the forest. She hovered at the edge of the clearing, afraid to move, afraid to breathe too loudly, as if she had stepped into something sacred. The air hummed with a soft, steady rhythm, like a pulse, like a heartbeat that had existed long before the first firefly had ever flickered to life. Slowly she drifted forward, the golden light reflecting in her tiny eyes. The warmth of it wrapped around her, soft and weightless, as if the forest itself was embracing her, whispering to her in a language only the trees and the stars understood. She closed her eyes, letting herself sink into the warmth, into the rhythm of the glowing world around her. And then she felt it, a flicker, faint and small, deep inside her chest, a warmth she had never felt before, something ancient and steady, something that had always been there, waiting. Her body grew lighter, her wings stronger. And when she opened her eyes, she saw the world in a way she never had before. The trees no longer loomed tall and distant. They cradled the sky, their leaves moving in time with the whispers of the wind. The air was no longer empty. It was alive with light, with movement, with stories waiting to be told. And she was no longer small. She was a part of it, a part of the glow, a part of the hum, a part of something vast and endless and beautiful. She did not need to force her light. It had always been there, waiting for her to see it. When she lifted into the air again, her glow was no longer faint. It was warm, soft, steady. She flew higher, back through the mist, back past the whispering trees, back toward the world she had left behind. And when she returned to the fireflies, to the glowing clouds of light dancing above the meadows, they turned toward her, their tiny golden bodies flickering in greeting. For the first time, she did not feel small. For the first time, she did not feel lost. She was part of the light now. And as the forest hummed its endless lullaby, as the night stretched on in soft waves of silver mist, she danced among the fireflies, her glow steady, her heart full, her story now woven into the quiet, gentle pulse of the world. The forest exhaled, the trees swayed, and somewhere deep within the roots of the earth, the glow of sleeping light remained, waiting for the next dreamer to find their way home. The forest did not forget. It never did. Even as the fireflies drifted through the night, their golden trails weaving soft patterns in the air, even as the mist curled low over the ground, whispering between the roots of ancient trees, the forest watched. It listened. It carried the stories of those who wandered beneath its branches, tucking them into the hush of rustling leaves, the hush of moonlight resting on quiet water, the hush of dreams unfolding beneath the stars. And tonight it was waiting. The smallest firefly, the one who had once been dim, had returned. Her light was no longer weak, no longer flickering uncertainly against the dark. It was steady now, pulsing softly in rhythm with the deep, unseen heartbeat of the forest. But she was not the only one who had noticed the glow. Deep in the tangled thickets where the light never reached, where the roots of the trees twisted like silent watchmen, where even the wind moved more carefully, there was something else, a shadow. It was not like the soft darkness that stretched across the meadows at dusk, nor the gentle shade of leaves swaying in the moonlight. It was deeper, quieter. It had no shape, no voice, only the faintest breath of movement, like something that had been sleeping for a long, long time. And tonight, for the first time in many seasons, it stirred. The glow of the fireflies had reached beyond the meadows, beyond the gentle rivers, beyond the whispering groves. It had touched the edges of the place where the light had once been lost, and something inside the shadow remembered. It had once belonged to the glow. Long ago, before time had settled into its slow rhythm, before the trees had stretched their roots so deep, before the night had wrapped itself in the hush of waiting, the shadow had been light. It had flickered and danced among the fireflies, had soared through the air, leaving trails of golden warmth in its wake. But then, the glow had faded. It did not know why. It only knew that little by little, the light had become dimmer, and the world had felt heavier, and the quiet had settled into its bones like a weight it could not lift. And so, it had stopped glowing. It had curled into the roots of the trees, into the deep places where the forest did not hum, where the wind did not call, where the rain did not reach, and there it had remained until now, until tonight. And oh, the smallest firefly, the one who had once been dim, had returned with a glow so soft, so steady, that it reached even into the deep places. The shadow watched from the edges of the thicket, where the trees arched toward one another like guardians, their branches woven so thick that even the stars could not peek through. The fireflies danced just beyond, their light weaving golden strands into the air, their quiet song filling the spaces between the leaves. The smallest one was at the center. Her glow was not the brightest, not the largest, but it was warm. It did not waver, it did not hesitate, and something inside the shadow ached. It had once glowed like that. It had once felt that warmth. The smallest firefly paused, as if she too had sensed something just beyond the light, something watching, waiting. She hovered for a moment, her glow pulsing gently, reaching out. The shadow felt it, a quiet call, a whisper of something forgotten. It did not move, it did not breathe, but it listened. The firefly did not leave. She remained at the edge of the light, her glow flickering softly against the thick curtain of trees. An invitation. The shadow hesitated. It had been too long. It had been lost for too long. It did not know if it could return. But the firefly was still waiting. She did not call out. She did not force. She only stayed, soft, steady, glowing. And the shadow, for the first time in a long time, took a step forward. Just one. The light touched the very edge of it, brushing against the darkness like the first breath of dawn touching the night. The shadow shivered. It was not painful. It was not heavy. It was warm. The smallest firefly drifted closer. Her glow touched the shadow again, weaving golden light into the air around it, wrapping it in something gentle, something safe. The shadow did not pull away. It had been waiting for this, even if it had forgotten, even if it had been lost. It had been waiting for someone to remember. And tonight, beneath the hush of the trees, beneath the slow sigh of the wind, beneath the endless stretch of sky hidden behind the canopy, the shadow took another step. The light did not push it away. The light did not reject it. The light welcomed it home. And for the first time in a long time, deep within the quiet places of the forest, where the glow had once faded, a spark flickered, faint, small, but alive. And the forest, watching, listening, waiting, exhaled. It remembered, it embraced. And somewhere, in the quiet rhythm of the trees, the hush of the leaves, the warmth of the earth, a forgotten glow began to return. The forest was breathing, not in the way the wind moved through the trees, not in the way the leaves shivered beneath the silver touch of the stars, but in something deeper, something older. It was in the hush that settled between the roots, in the quiet pull of the earth, in the rhythm that pulsed beneath the weight of time itself. And in that breath, In that slow, endless hum of something beyond words, the light had begun to stir. The fireflies still danced in the meadows, their golden glow weaving through the dark like threads of a forgotten lullaby. The smallest one remained at the edge of the clearing, her light pulsing gently, never rushing, never forcing, just waiting. And the shadow, the one that had once belonged to the glow, stood just beyond, where the trees arched toward one another in silent watchfulness. It had taken a step into the light, just one, but even that had been enough to stir something inside it, something that had been still for too long. It did not know what would happen next. For so long it had remained in the quiet places, in the spaces where the glow could not reach. It had forgotten how to move in the light, forgotten how to exist beyond the hush of the roots. But the firefly had not turned away. She had not fled. She had remained. The shadow did not know why. And so, on that night, in the hush of the forest, in the glow of the sleeping light, the shadow did something it had not done in an eternity. It listened, not just to the wind sighing through the branches, not just to the soft hum of the distant river, but to something older, something beneath the hush, something in the glow. The light was speaking, not in words, not in sound, but in something quieter, something deeper. It was speaking through the way the fireflies moved in slow rhythmic patterns, through the way the trees leaned into one another as if sharing a secret, through the way the very ground beneath them pulsed with a steady, ancient heartbeat. The shadow had once understood this language. Once, long ago, before it had curled into the roots, before it had let the glow slip away, it had been a part of this rhythm. It had danced among the fireflies. It had woven light into the air. It had shimmered beneath the canopy like a whisper of warmth against the cool breath of the night. And now, standing on the edge of the light, it realized something. The rhythm had never left. It had never faded. It had only been waiting, waiting for the shadow to remember, waiting for it to return. The smallest firefly flickered, her glow pulsing in time with the steady breath of the forest. She had not spoken, had not called the shadow forward, but she had remained, and that was enough. The shadow hesitated. It had been still for so long. It did not know if it could move again, did not know if it could step fully into the light, but it wanted to try. Slowly, carefully, it lifted itself forward. The light brushed against it, warm and steady, wrapping around it like the memory of something long lost. The glow did not push it away. It did not burn. It welcomed. The firefly drifted closer, her golden light illuminating the space between them. She hovered just before the shadow, her glow soft and patient, as if waiting for it to take the next step on its own. The shadow reached out, and for the first time in an eternity, it touched the glow. A spark, a pulse, a flicker of something warm, something familiar, something that had always been there, waiting beneath the hush. The firefly pulsed gently in response. her glow growing just a little brighter, as if acknowledging the moment, as if recognizing something that had been missing for so long. The shadow did not vanish. It did not disappear beneath the weight of the light. Instead, it softened, it breathed, and in that breath, something inside it shifted. It had always thought that to step into the light, it would have to leave behind what it had become, that it would have to erase the stillness, the hush, the time spent in the quiet places. But that was not true. The forest did not reject the quiet. The fireflies did not fear the dark. They moved together, light and shadow, glow and hush, weaving through the night in an endless rhythm that belonged to both. The shadow had never truly been separate from the glow. It had only forgotten how to belong to it. And now, as it stood on the edge of the clearing, the firefly still hovering before it, the glow surrounding it in gentle warmth, the shadow knew it was time to return, not as something new, not as something different, but as something whole. The smallest firefly drifted backward, toward the meadows where the others danced, her light pulsing in time with the heartbeat of the earth. The shadow followed. The glow welcomed it. And for the first time in a long, long time, the fireflies wove a new thread into the lullaby of the forest. A thread of light, a thread of hush, a thread of something lost, now found again. And the night, wrapped in its endless breath, listened. The night was deep, the kind of quiet that hummed beneath the world, soft and endless. The glow of the fireflies flickered in slow waves, breathing with the forest, blending with the hush of the leaves that shivered in the windless air. The trees stood tall and patient, their roots tangled deep in the earth, listening to the stories whispered through the soil, through the light, through the hush of time itself. The shadow had stepped forward, feeling the warmth of the glow wrap around it, not forcing, not pulling, only waiting, only welcoming. It had followed the smallest firefly, the one who had been dim, the one who had found her light not in something new, but in something that had always been there, buried beneath the quiet. The journey was slow, not in the way of tired feet or heavy wings, but in the way of things that were learning to belong again. The firefly did not rush. The shadow did not force. They moved together past the trees that had watched for centuries, past the rivers that reflected the sky, past the sleeping creatures curled in nests of moss and leaves, past the hush of places where dreams still lingered, waiting to be found. The glow stretched outward, weaving into the night, and the fireflies in the meadows turned toward it, sensing something new, something familiar, something that had once been lost. The firefly, the smallest one, hovered at the edge of the great open space where the glow gathered. She pulsed softly, waiting, watching. The shadow hesitated. The meadows were filled with golden light, with the slow movement of tiny wings, with the hush of night wrapped in warmth. It had been so long, so long since it had been among them, so long since it had let itself belong. What if the light did not accept it? What if it was too heavy with the weight of the hush, too changed by the stillness? What if it had forgotten how to glow? The firefly drifted back toward it, pulsing gently. No words, no rush, just waiting, just light, just warmth. The shadow closed its eyes, listening to the hum of the fireflies, to the deep, slow breath of the trees, to the quiet rhythm of the world. And it realized something. It had never been separate. Not really. Not from the hush, not from the glow, not from the rhythm of the earth, of the sky, of the time that stretched forward and back, weaving everything together like strands of light, like threads of night. It had only believed it was alone. It had only forgotten. But the forest had not. The glow had not. And as the firefly pulsed, soft and steady, the shadow finally stepped forward. The light did not burn. The glow did not reject. The fireflies, sensing something new, something old, something that had always belonged, turned their soft golden flickers toward it. For the first time in an eternity, the shadow did not retreat. It did not curl away. It did not disappear into the roots. It breathed. The smallest firefly drifted closer, her glow brushing against the shadow's edges. And then, a flicker, a warmth, a pulse, slow and steady, rising from somewhere deep within. The shadow had thought it had lost its glow, had thought it had let go of the light long ago, leaving only hush, only quiet, only stillness. But it had been wrong. The glow had never left. It had only been waiting, waiting for the moment the shadow would listen, waiting for the moment it would return. The pulse grew steadier, stretching through the shadow like ripples in water, like the first breath of dawn before the sun crests the horizon, like the hush before a song begins. And then it glowed, not as bright as the others, not as strong, but steady. The fireflies did not pull away. They did not stop their slow, rhythmic dance. They only pulsed in time, adjusting, shifting, welcoming. The light and the hush moving together, not apart, not separate, but whole. The smallest firefly, the one who had once been dim, drifted beside the shadow, their glow soft, even, warm. The shadow, no longer a shadow, no longer lost, no longer separate, lifted itself into the night, and for the first time in a long, long time, it did not feel alone. The forest exhaled, slow and steady, trees shifting, wind moving, night stretching forward like an endless lullaby. And in the golden hush of the meadows, in the breath of the earth, in the rhythm of time itself, the glow danced. The night stretched onward, deep and endless, wrapped in the quiet hum of the earth. The glow of the fireflies flickered gently, pulsing like the slow heartbeat of the forest, woven into the hush of the world. The trees stood tall, ancient and knowing, their branches cradling the sky, their roots sinking deep into the stories whispered beneath the soil. The air carried the scent of moss and damp leaves, cool and weightless, wrapping everything in a veil of calm. And in the center of it all, where the golden light shimmered soft and steady, the shadow, now no longer just shadow, drifted beside the smallest firefly, glowing for the first time in what felt like eternity. The glow was not bright, not blinding, not something that overtook the night. It was softer than that, quieter, a warmth rather than a blaze, a memory rather than a command. It did not erase the hush. It became part of it, weaving light into stillness, movement into quiet. The fireflies did not stop their slow, endless dance. They pulsed in time with the rhythm of the earth, shifting seamlessly to welcome the new glow, the returning light. They had never feared the hush. They had never turned away from the shadow. They had only waited. And now, the waiting had ended. The smallest firefly drifted through the meadow, her glow steady, guiding the one who had been lost, the one who had been still, the one who had finally remembered what it meant to belong. The light and the hush moved together, a gentle rhythm, a slow exhale, a pulse that stretched into the night. They passed through the meadows, through the fields where the fireflies painted golden trails against the dark, through the quiet spaces where the wind carried the scent of sleeping flowers. The world did not rush. The world did not demand. It only breathed, and the glow, new yet familiar, breathed with it. They reached the river, where the water reflected the sky, where the stars shimmered in soft, rippling patterns, where time seemed to pause, stretching between the past and the present like a bridge made of mist. The smallest firefly hovered above the surface, her glow touching the water, sending tiny waves outward, a ripple of light against the dark. The glow beside her hesitated. The river carried more than reflections. It carried memory. To step forward, to drift across its surface, was to accept what had been lost, to let go of the stillness that had once felt like home. The glow flickered, not in fear, not in doubt, but in something deeper, something quieter, something that understood. The firefly waited, not rushing, not pulling, just being. And the glow, steady now, warm now, whole now, stepped onto the water. The river did not resist. It carried them both, rippling outward in golden waves, in soft movement, in the quiet pulse of something returning. The trees watched, the sky listened, the world remembered. The fireflies shimmered along the banks, weaving slow, gentle patterns in the night air, their glow reflected in the water, in the hush, in the breath of everything that had once waited. And the glow, now part of it all, now no longer lost, no longer afraid, drifted onward. The hush and the light, the shadow and the glow, moving together, soft and endless, woven into the quiet lullaby of the world. And the night, wrapped in golden whispers, exhaled. The river carried them forward, slow and weightless, weaving through the forest like a silver thread unraveling in the night. The water, dark as the sky, reflected every flicker of firefly light, turning the ripples into golden waves that pulsed with the rhythm of something ancient, something deeper than words. The hush of the world stretched around them, neither empty nor silent, but full of unseen stories, of forgotten lullabies, of whispers too soft for the waking world to hear. The smallest firefly hovered just ahead, her glow steady, her light leaving tiny shimmering ripples in the water. The one who had been shadow, now glowing faintly, followed without hesitation. It did not fear the river. It did not fear the hush. It had learned that both light and quiet could exist together, moving in harmony, one never consuming the other. The air was thick with mist, cool and soft, curling around them as the river led them deeper into the unseen parts of the forest. Here the trees bent lower, their branches stretching over the water like silent watchers. The fireflies that lived in this part of the world were different, not golden, but silver blue, their glow shifting like moonlight caught in water. They pulsed in slow waves, as if in conversation with something unseen, something just beyond the mist. The smallest firefly slowed. The river had widened, deepened, stretched into something vast. The glow beside her hesitated, sensing the shift, sensing something on the other side of the mist, something waiting. The smallest firefly pulsed once, a question, a whisper, and the mist, as if answering, began to move. It did not clear all at once, nor did it rush away like wind through the trees. It simply unwove itself, strand by strand, revealing what had been hidden beyond the hush. A lake, endless, dark and shining, smooth as untouched glass, and above it, light. Not fireflies, not reflections, something older, something woven into the night itself. It hung above the water in slow-moving swirls, like clouds made of glow, like the breath of stars caught between time. It pulsed with a steady rhythm, rising and falling, stretching and curling, as if listening, as if waiting. The glow beside the firefly did not move. It recognized this place, not from sight, not from memory, but from the hush within its own light. The smallest firefly drifted closer to the edge of the lake, her glow softening, quieting, as if in reverence. This was not just a place. This was something alive. A presence, a keeper. The one who had been shadow flickered, their glow pulsing in time with the slow waves of light above the lake. They felt it, something reaching, something calling, not with words, but with memory. This was where the first glow was born, where all fireflies, all flickers of light, all whispers of warmth had once begun. The lake did not reflect the stars. It held them, every lost glow, every forgotten flicker, every warmth that had ever faded from the world above. They were all here, waiting. The smallest firefly turned, her glow pulsing again. Another question, Another whisper. Would the one who had been shadow step forward? Would they reach into the place where all lost glow waited to be remembered? The glow hesitated, not in fear, not in doubt, but in something deeper, something that understood what it meant to belong and what it meant to lose. This was not just a journey to return to the light. It was a journey to become part of something more, to step into the place where light and hush met, where time curled in on itself, where the first glow had once breathed its first golden breath. The mist curled back further, revealing something beneath the water. Tiny flickers of glow, pulsing faintly, trapped beneath the surface like embers caught beneath glass. They were waiting. They had been waiting for a long, long time. And the glow, the one who had been shadow, knew why it had come. Not just to find its own light, but to find the others. The smallest firefly hovered beside them, not leading now, not guiding, but standing with them. This was their choice. This was the moment. The glow pulsed once, and then it stepped forward, into the lake, into the hush, into the waiting glow of the ones who had been lost. The water did not ripple. The glow did not sink. Instead, the moment stretched endlessly. A breath, a hush, and then light. Not a single flicker, not a lone firefly's glow, but something vast, something returning. The lake exhaled, and the glow within it rose, soft at first, then stronger, pulsing like a sleeping star waking from a dream. One glow became two. Two became four. Four became endless. The sky, the trees, the water, the world itself listened as the lost glows returned, their warmth stretching outward, reaching upward, weaving golden trails into the fabric of the night. And the one who had been shadow, the one who had once curled into the roots, the one who had waited so long to return, was no longer alone. The smallest firefly pulsed beside them, their glow now part of something bigger, something deeper, something older than time. The hush and the glow together, no longer separate, no longer waiting, no longer lost. The forest exhaled, the sky hummed, and for the first time in what felt like forever, the night shone. Good night, little one. Close your eyes and let the soft whispers of the night wrap around you like a warm hug. The stars are watching, the moon is smiling, and the fireflies are dancing just for you. May your dreams be full of gentle adventures, glowing lights, and magical places where you are always safe, always loved. Sleep well, little dreamer. The world will be waiting for you in